Have you ever heard anyone mention that vaccines cause autism? Or have you ever thought, I wonder if I will choose to vaccinate my children? Well, I thought that back in 2012 before I took my sports nutrition class at BYU, Idaho, and now I don't even think twice about it. The majority of us in this life will have kids at some point, and we will have to make the decision on whether we'll vaccinate our children. I have taken many classes where I have learned about vaccines and about scientific research, including sports nutrition, microbiology, advanced exercise physiology, psychology, and sociology. I'm going to relay to you what I have learned in those classes, that vaccines are very important because herd immunity is important and that they don't cause autism. I will teach you about herd immunity and why some people think that vaccines cause autism or autism spectrum disorders, ASD, and I'll teach you about scientific peer-reviewed research articles and the relation between vaccines and autism. So I first want to introduce to you to the idea of herd immunity. Herd immunity is when a majority of a population is immunized against a certain disease so that the general population is protected because there is little opportunity for an outbreak. So it is important because not everyone can get vaccines. Infants at a certain age can't get them. There's some people that because of some diseases that they have, they are not able to receive vaccines at any point in their life. Like people with cancer, they cannot receive vaccinations. The Center of Disease Control says that the recommended immunization schedule is designed to protect infant and children early in life when they are most vulnerable and before they are exposed to potentially life-threatening diseases. So the first immunization is given at birth, like Hep B, and the next dose is given at 1 to 2 months. An infant then gets vaccinated at 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, and there are multiple diseases that the child does not get vaccinated for until after they are 12 months old, until after they are a year old. This includes the MMR vaccine, the measles, mumps, and rubella, and the varicella. Also Hep A, Tdap, which is tetanus, diphtheria, and acellular pertussis. Those are just to name a few. And because of this herd immunity, if herd immunity decreases, a child may catch the disease before they even have the chance to get vaccinated because there's more likelihood of an outbreak, and there are people that cannot receive vaccines. So the CDC reported in 2014 that in order to obtain herd immunity with the MMR, that 92 to 95% of children needed to be vaccinated. And the median rate for kindergarteners in the 2013 to 2014 school year that got the MMR vaccine was 95%, so right on the edge of there. The CDC mentioned that in some communities, opt-out ratings were soaring, that it was even below the 95%, which is necessary for the herd immunity. So there are some reasons why people think that vaccines cause autism. So the first idea came along, it was from a British article based on a study that was done in 1998. It wasn't just the study that was bad, but the data was falsified to make it look like there was a link between autism and vaccines, while in fact, the doctor, Dr. Wakefield, was being paid by a law firm that had the intention of suing vaccine manufacturers. So this was a not true article, it was not peer-reviewed, that was published. And since then, the article has been retracted. The doctor that falsified the data was stripped of his medical license, but unfortunately, it has had a long-lasting effect on public health, and public health has been greatly damaged because of it. So another reason people feel that vaccines cause autism is because of anecdotal evidence. So anecdotal evidence meaning personal experience. Things like that, not scientifically researched, not proved over and over, but just personal experience. So if I type in personal stories of vaccines causing autism, there are 27,400,000 results that pop up. There are so many moms that want to tell their story of how their child contracted autism after receiving the MMR vaccine. But that's all that it is anecdotal evidence, their personal opinion. And I don't want to say that personal opinion, is completely wrong, but when the research shows that there's no correlation, there needs to be some people should do research rather than relying on anecdotal evidence. So, what does the research say? So, there have been many studies done that show that there is no link between receiving vaccines and developing autism. In a CNN article about Wakefield, it said, unfortunately, his core group of supporters is not going to let the facts dissuade their beliefs that MMR cause autism. One article was published in the Journal of Pediatrics that was titled Increasing Exposure to Antibody Stimulating Proteins and Polysaccharides in Vaccines is Not Associated with Risk of Autism. So the study looked at a number of antigens, substances that in vaccines that cause the body's immune response to produce disease-fighting antibodies from vaccines during the first 2 years of life. The results showed that the total amount of antigens from vaccines received was the same between children with autism and those that did not have autism, meaning the things received from the vaccines, there was no difference within those with autism and those with not. The study was done because one of the ideas was on the rise was that the first 2 years of life, children received too many vaccines, too many at one visit. But this kind of disproved that because it was, they studied those that had received vaccines the first 2 years of life, and there was no correlation. So those that believe vaccines cause ASD also have concern about the thimerosal causing it. Thimerosal is a mercury-based preservative that they used to put in vaccinations, in multi-dose viral vaccines to help prevent contamination. So there have been 9 studies that have been done that have been funded by the CDC or else conducted by the CDC, the Center of Disease Control, that show there is no such link between thimerosal and ASD. And lastly, the New England Journal of Medicine published an article titled A Population-Based Study of Measles, Mumps, and Rubella Vaccination and Autism. This was a retrospective cohort study of all the children born in January of 1991 through December of 1998 in Denmark. So they pretty much took all of their records. Total, there were 537,303 children in the study. 440,655 had received the MMR vaccine, and the rest had not. They found that 316 children were diagnosed with autism, and 422 were diagnosed with other autistic spectrum disorders. The study showed that there was similar risk in developing autism/ASD, whether the child was vaccinated or not, that whether they were within the category of having received the vaccination or had not, the amount of autism within those groups was very similar. In conclusion, I hope I've informed you that vaccines are very important, and herd immunity is very important as well, that many studies have been done, many scientific peer-reviewed published articles that show no correlation between vaccines or the MMR vaccine and autism. So I challenge you guys to research on your own, take what you have heard from me today, and make sure that you find good accredited articles and sources to learn for yourself what I have talked to you about today. And tell your friends, talk to those that are contemplating whether or not they should vaccinate their children, and inform and educate them on vaccine safety. So I have a little quote from Goethe. It says, "Knowing is not enough, we must apply. Willing is not enough, we must do."